Good evening. To begin the program, I kindly invite Ambassador Rodolfo Robles to say a few words. Sir. Excellencies, distinguished guests, our friend Peter Lundi, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I am pleased to welcome you all to this commemoration of the 143rd birthday of Manuel Luis Quezon. Today, August 19, the very same day, the independent weight of the Ombudsman was loaded into the constitutional architecture of the Philippines. I'm also grateful that you have come to share your time with us in the celebration of Quezon Day. Born 143 years ago, Manuel Luis Quezon was the president of our Commonwealth from 1936 to 1944. With heroic persistence, he was able to push for our independence in July 1946. His unprecedented dedication for our independence was memorialized when the capital city of our country was named Quezon City. And the province of his birth was also named Quezon Province. This is perhaps the reason why it was deemed auspicious to record the entry of the Ombudsman into our constitutional space, August 19, in 1971. Perhaps to honor President Quezon, who's strengthening a cornerstone for the rule of law and public accountability in the Philippines, principles which remain strong and inviolable half a century later. The Office of the Ombudsman enjoys fiscal autonomy. It stands independent from any other branch of government, and perhaps enjoy also constitutional guarantees to insulate itself from political influence and interference. In a fortuitous coincidence, the simultaneous adoption of the so-called Miranda Doctrine in the same 1973 Constitution further strengthened the guarantee of the fundamental rights of our people, particularly those who are under investigation for the commission of a crime. Again, I'm quite gratified that we celebrate the occasion in person and be able to feel more the warmth of our friendship. Thank you very much, and mabuhay to everyone.
Hello everyone, greetings from the Philippines. Our speaker today has gained an interesting notoriety in the field of law, as well as the dispensation of justice in the Philippine legal system. He was born in 1949, literally a public servant waiting to happen. He had early aspirations of becoming a priest, but soon became devoted to the study of law, well, upon the proddings of a mother who wanted for him a career in the judiciary. So he graduated from the San Beda College of Law in 1975 and was admitted to the Philippine Bar in the year 1976. In the following 8 years, he served as legal officer of the Department of Public Works, Transportation and Communication, and later as assistant department manager of the then Ministry of Human Settlements. In 1984, he left government service and set up his own business while practicing law on the side as a private litigator. After his mother died in 1998, he applied for a position in the judiciary and was appointed as presiding judge of the Regional Trial Court, Branch 32 of Agoo, La Union. This was in the year 2000. His career in the judiciary was followed by an appointment as Associate Justice of the Sandigan Bayan, the Anti-Graft Court of the Philippines, where he served from the year 2005 to early 2017. In the same year of 2017, he was again appointed as Associate Justice, this time in the Philippine Supreme Court. At the Supreme Court, he was allowed to retire early, which paved the way for his appointment as Ombudsman of the Philippines in the year 2019. He survived more than a dozen administrative complaints and challenges to his judicial decisions. When his appointed was being considered for the Supreme Court, he became the target of both right-wing and left-wing activists. He was much criticized for having penned the decision which approved the plea bargaining agreement between the prosecution and Major General Carlos Garcia, who was at that time the Comptroller of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. The criticisms came notwithstanding that the government stood to recover more than 135 million worth of cash deposits, bonds, and properties under the plea deal. Also, he was criticized for the position he took with respect to the pork barrel scam, specifically when he agreed to issue a warrant of arrest against then Senator Juan Ponce Enrile, while dissenting to issue warrants of arrest against the other accused in the same case. That was for plunder. By the way, his positions and decisions in both cases were upheld on appeal. As ombudsman, he continued to spark interest with policies and practices that point to the recurring themes of adherence to the rule of law, ethical justice, protection of the rights of the people, whether you be the complainant, the witness, or the accused. His experiences in the judiciary gave him a certain perspective so that to him, everybody becomes a victim once the case reaches the litigation stage, whether you be in whatever capacity you may stand. For him, the role of the Office of the Ombudsman is to respect and protect the rights of all the concerned individuals, including the government. Among the first and boldest move undertaken by the Ombudsman when he assumed office was to withdraw the case against then-President Benigno Aquino III for the crime of usurpation of public authority. Of course, the unpopularity of the move uh, became unimportant with the demise of the late president. The current ombudsman may be said to have seen it all, been there, done that. His experiences in the judiciary and his strict belief in the rule of law, commitment to uphold the rule of law, continue to steer the office of the ombudsman in such a direction designated or designed to protect all the people. His decisions, his actions may be unpopular, but history has always made his notoriety or turned his notoriety into a desirable one. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and my privilege to introduce to you the guest speaker for the day, the Honorable Samuel Reyes Martires, Ombudsman of the Republic of the Philippines.
Thank you very much, Prosecutor Janet Lea Ramos, for that very kind introduction. To our host this afternoon, Ambassador Rodolfo Robles, Your Excellencies from the Asia Pacific Group of Ambassadors and High Commissioners, the Honorable Assistant Deputy Minister Paul Thoppil, I hope I pronounced that correctly, and his colleagues from the Global Affairs Canada, the members of the Philippine Embassy in Ottawa, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I would like to thank Ambassador Robles for making me a part of today's celebration commemorating the birthday of the Philippines' first President of the Commonwealth, Manuel Luis Quezon, and for giving me the opportunity to give you a glimpse of the Ombudsman of the Philippines and its role in the criminal justice system in the Philippines. The Philippines has an independent judiciary. Judicial power is vested in the Supreme Court and in three other lower level courts and several special courts. For over 100 years since the Philippines gained its independence, the judicial system under one Supreme Court has been in place and is respected. Through some of the political upheavals in the nation's history, the Supreme Court has proved to be a stabilizing force, ensuring that the body politic observes public order and continues to uphold and adhere to the rule of law. Litigants from all walks of life and persuasions, business leaders, adherents across the political spectrum, even activists, come to the courts to seek redress for their grievances. The decisions of the courts are respected and obeyed. Supreme Court decisions applying or interpreting the laws of the Constitution form part of the law of the land. The Philippine Supreme Court has adopted the vision of the criminal justice system as follows: to provide the public an effective system or process in the community by which crimes are investigated and the persons suspected thereof are taken into custody, prosecuted in court, and punished if found guilty, with provision being made for their correction and rehabilitation. An effective criminal justice system is born out of a synergy between and among its five pillars and their respect for the overarching rule of law. In the Philippines, we have five pillars that function like a chain of links, starting with law enforcement, prosecution, the judiciary, penology, and the community. Together with the Department of Justice, the Ombudsman, is a part of the prosecution pillar. But how did the Ombudsman become a part of the judicial system? Allow me to give you a brief background on how the concept of the Ombudsman found its way into the criminal justice system of the Philippines. The concept of the Ombudsman was introduced in the 1973 Constitution by then Constitutional Convention delegate Rodolfo Robles, who is now the Philippine Ambassador to Canada. The Constitution mandated the National Assembly to create an Office of the Ombudsman, to be known as Tanod Bayan, which shall receive and investigate complaints relative to public office, make appropriate recommendations, and in case of failure of justice as defined by law, file and prosecute the corresponding criminal, civil, or administrative case before the proper court or body. But since martial law was declared in 1972, it was only on June 11, 1978, when the Office of the Ombudsman was created through Presidential Decree 1487. 9 years thereafter, the delegates to the Constitutional Commission who were tasked to revise the 1973 Constitution saw the need to retain the Office of the Ombudsman as an independent constitutional body who shall be responsible with the promotion of higher efficiency and justice in the administration of laws and the protection of the constitutional rights of the people by securing the rights of the citizens to petition the government for redress of grievances, and which shall be unfettered by political influence and insulate the office from the ebb and tide of political fortunes. The powers of the Ombudsman were expanded, and it was given more teeth in imposing upon the public servants its duty and obligation to be accountable to the people at all times. The Ombudsman is the institutional head of this office. He is assisted by an overall Deputy Ombudsman and a Deputy Ombudsman for each of the country's three major geographical regions or islands, namely Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. The jurisdictional bounds of these three sectoral offices are delineated with respect to the place of commission of acts constituting the offenses being complained of. A Deputy Ombudsman for the military and other law enforcement offices leads a fourth sectoral office who takes cognizance of complaints involving the military, the police, the National Bureau of Investigation, and other law enforcement agencies. In addition, a special prosecutor leads the prosecution arm of the office for the trial of criminal cases involving high-ranking public officials before the Sandigan Bayan, which is the country's anti-graft court. The existence of the Department of Justice and the Ombudsman in the same legal system may give the impression of duplicative organizations. No, it is not. On the contrary, they complement each other. The Department of Justice is still the principal law agency of the Philippine government, and it is part of the executive branch, while the Office of the Ombudsman is an independent anti-corruption office. The Department of Justice is under the executive branch, while the Office of the Ombudsman is an independent constitutional body specifically referenced as the protector of the people. The function of the Department of Justice is primarily to act as the legal counsel of the government and the government's prosecution arm for purposes of administering the criminal justice system in the areas of investigation of crimes, the prosecution of offenders, the administration of the correctional system, the immigration laws, land titling, settlement of land disputes, and to provide free legal assistance to indigent clients. It is in the area of jurisdiction and the authority to discipline where the two offices starkly differ. While the concern of the Department of Justice is the criminal violations committed by non-government employees or private citizens, or by foreigners who during their temporary stay in the Philippines has committed an offense, the Ombudsman has authority over any illegal, unjust, improper, or inefficient act or omission of any public official, employee, office, or agency. The Ombudsman's investigation and prosecution functions look into both the administrative and criminal aspects of infraction committed in relation to the exercise of governmental functions. It is in this area of investigating the administrative liability of a government official or employee that the Ombudsman exercises its power to preventively suspend every employee or official from office during the period of investigation of the case for a period not exceeding 6 months. During this pandemic, or last year, in the year 2020, the Ombudsman preventively suspended from office for a period of 6 months without pay some high-ranking officers of the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, undersecretaries and directors of the Department of Health, 92 barangay chairpersons, 83 employees of the Bureau of Immigration, and some officials from different government agencies. The Ombudsman has also the authority to investigate private individuals who are suspected to be in conspiracy with government officials or employees in the commission of a crime. What distinguishes further the office of the Ombudsman from the Department of Justice or from other ombudsman offices in other countries is its authority to investigate motu proprio any act or omission of any public officer or employee or reports on crimes committed allegedly by public officials and employees, including the police and the military, when these crimes are committed in relation to their office. This wide range of authority covers investigations and prosecution of such crimes and offenses as violation of the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Law, violation of the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees, violation of the crime of plunder, bribery, malversation, falsification, murder, extrajudicial killings, sexual harassment, violation of human rights, and forfeiture of ill-gotten wealth, among others. Likewise, the Ombudsman is invested with the power to direct upon complaint any public official or employee of the government or any subdivision, agency, or instrumentality thereof to perform or expedite any act or duty required by law or to stop, prevent, and correct any abuse or impropriety in the performance of duties. Lastly, it is the Ombudsman who has the exclusive jurisdiction to represent the people or the state with respect to offenses cognizable by the Sandigan Bayan, the Special Anti-Graft Court in the Philippines. For the past 3 years since I assumed office, in 2018, the Ombudsman has criminally charged and investigated 236 military officers while 247 were administratively investigated and charged. The Ombudsman has likewise charged and investigated 1,604 police officers and personnel in their alleged involvement in criminal offenses, while 1,715 were administratively charged and investigated. From August 2018 to February 2021, the Office of the Ombudsman has suspended from office 676 public officials and employees, and of this total number of suspended government employees, 253 are members of the Philippine National Police, 4 from the Armed Forces of the Philippines, and 18 from other law enforcement agencies. The Office of the Ombudsman has likewise dismissed from the service 232 government officials and employees, 30 of which are police officers, 21 military officers, and 12 other employees from the different law enforcement agencies. Excuse me. The Office of the Ombudsman believes that while public service has been largely affected in this pandemic, there is no reason to back down some of the established milestones that we have as ombudsman institutions. On the contrary, the rising incidence of corruption in emergency situations, including reported abuses of the fundamental rights to life, liberty, and security, when rules are easily sidestepped in the guise of implementing health protocols, should all the more prompt the Office of the Ombudsman and anti-corruption institutions to rise above the health scare and illumine the seeming darkness with which the torch of accountability that our peoples so earnestly crave, especially in these times that try men's souls. Thank you very much, and I wish you all the best of health. Thank you.